after this panel instead of before, which is perfect. And if anybody knows what I do with Free and Equal Elections, I love moderating and I love supporting independent candidates. So it is just a huge calling to be up here to moderate for empowered independent candidates and what they do and the work that they do. So I just want everybody to kind of come up and discuss who they are and speak why they support independent candidates, people running for office. And we're going to go ahead and start with Richard Winger. I think this panel is about 20 minutes, so about 5 minutes each, just to be aware of that time frame. So, and take turns and have discussions. In the future, we'll evolve into a conference where we can have more engagement with the audience and questions. But today, we'll be hearing from our listeners. So I want to introduce a hero and a friend of mine, election law expert Richard Winger of Ballot Access News. Welcome, Richard.
When this country began, there were no government printed ballots. Candidates were responsible for printing their own ballots, or parties, but a voter could make his or her own ballot. So there was no way any government could prevent anybody from running for office. And we've made huge improvements in elections in this country since the 18th century. But in this one area, we've gone backwards. And what really made me sick was when the government started printing ballots, state Supreme Courts almost invariably said, you have to permit write-in space on there because the right of a voter to vote for anyone he or she wants is fundamental. We've always had that. We have to keep it. And so almost every state had write-in space, because they started making it harder and harder to get on the ballot, but at least we had that. Then in 1992, the Supreme Court took that away. A terrible decision called Burdick versus Takushi, where Justice Byron White said, oh, Hawaii, it was a case from Hawaii, has a state interest in stability. He didn't define stability. He didn't say another word about it. But there went the right of a voter to vote for anyone he or she wanted. And we've been going downhill ever since. And I don't want to take up any more of my time, but I think, I don't know if we're going to have questions or not. Is that possible?
We can.
Okay, let's leave it there.
Yeah, we go fast enough, we can have questions. Yeah.
And Richard's quite humble. If you want to get on the ballot as any party, alternative party, as an independent, especially for President of the United States, this is the guy, the encyclopedia, knows the knowledge that will help you to reach that goal. And he is one of the leading experts in the United States. I mentioned before, he's testified in over 350, 400 cases to better our restrictive ballot access laws these past 40 years. So we have a hero here. And moving on to Karla Ballard. I met her last year through a presidential debate to her third stop, somewhere in there, third stop final. And she is the vice presidential candidate for an independent presidential race. And she'll speak about that. So welcome, Karla, an empowered woman.
Thank you so much, Christina. Can I put this down a little bit?
Sure.
Okay. Thank you so much.
I don't really mess with this much, but
It's okay. There we go. Let me just play some rock and roll. Let me just take the mic. So I'm Karla Ballard, and because of a gentleman over to my left that I've known for about 8 years through a group called Summit Series, decided to call me out of the blue and ask me a really pretty important question. And at that time, I was not necessarily thinking about running at all. I was in the midst of being in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, where I was literally launching a program called Villaging after the riots had hit after Mr. Floyd's murder. And lo and behold, sometimes in life, there's a mission that you're supposed to take that you have no idea you're about ready to say yes to. But thank goodness I've known Brock long enough to, when he asked me that question, say yes to him. A lot of that comes from understanding that we all walk our individual paths, and that the less that we can be judging each other, the more that we can see what we have in common. And in doing that, I said we have a mission in common. I have a real, which some of you heard me speak of my background, very, very mixed background. And so when Brock had mentioned his platform and wanting to make sure that we were all able to stand together no matter what, it made sense for me. It activated within me a need to make sure we have an independent voice that's able to unify the country, not tear the country apart. So when you ask, Christina, why I'm so committed to this journey of having an independent platform, it's because, guess what, guys? There are more of us than there are of extremists on the right and left.
My name is Brock Pierce. So grateful to be here in the center, or perhaps the heart of California. I ran for president of the United States of America last year with Karla Ballard as my running mate. I wasn't planning this. I wasn't ready for this. But when the mission comes, when the call, shows up, we're generally not ready for our greatest callings, our greatest missions, and we have to surrender to that process and just kind of get down on our hands and knees and say, I'm ready, I'm willing, I don't know what the future holds, but I'm prepared to do whatever it takes, willing to give my life, my liberty, my resources, my reputation, whatever it takes. Because I know that this reality that we're living in right now is not the potential of the reality that is possible. I know there is a better way. I know there is another path, and it ain't left and it ain't right. It is forward, together, step by step, in unity, as we come back together as one, all for all. Thank you so much for showing up here. Thank you for gracing us with your presence. And to make time for a few questions, I will pass the mic here.
So I'm Audrey Addison Williams, and I just want to confess that I'm having trouble with new dentures. Obviously, I didn't put enough Polident and too much to take them out, but what I have to say is important. So if you see me pushing down on these dentures, you're just going to have to look over that, all right? So I am the founder and president of the African Global Investment and Development Corporation. We are in business to heal the wound of slavery through economics, through commerce, through development and investment. I want to recognize and acknowledge everyone here. It takes an awful lot of courage and stamina and will to have the audacity to run for president. And the ego takes a beating. But what I'm here to tell you is that what looks like a failure in the moment are seeds that are planted that end up producing this. So I was raised by a man born in 1898, and his father was born a slave. And if it looked good, smelled good, and made you laugh, it was a sin. We were Pentecostal folks. But politics was just as important as religion. Listen to me. Politics and governance. And so I sat around the dinner table listening to my dad, and even though we were Republican, the front room was communists, socialists, Democrats, everybody, because it wasn't just us versus them. It was an exchange of ideas, and everybody was committed to a better world. And so I ran for president twice, first as a Republican and second as an independent. Because I don't believe a bunch of old white men with wigs started America. I believe that they were divinely inspired by a vision to create something that had never happened before. The promise of America has never yet been experienced. And so what I'm here to say is, America is the laboratory, is the playground for us to learn to love one another. And to bring that love and to bring that compassion and that empathy and that fire into the political arena. There are people far more qualified than all of us put together that did not run for president. When I first met Brock, it was one eye open and the other one closed. But I followed the brother. And one thing he did not do, he did not play the political game of, I'm not going to answer the question you just asked me. Anybody recognize that? I never saw Brock do that. And there were tough questions he was asked, and he answered them. The mistake that we are making, folks, we have to change our minds about who's fit to lead. We have to change our minds about where we put our money. Yes, there's a lot of money in politics, but folks, we got a lot of money too that we can flood into politics. We have to stop talking about what's wrong and say we're going to flood it with good money, with holy money. And with that money and all of our brilliance and our divinity, we will change America.
Ho!
Does anybody have a question? I love audience engagement. Coming up real quick. Real quick question. Particular candidate? Anyone? No, not one question? That's a first. Oh, we got one there. Great. Come on over. On the stage real quick. Sure. Mm-hmm. Please.
Thank you. Many of us who are here shared a really incredible circle at the Independent National Convention, where in my experience, a lot of the collective trauma of America came to the surface. And I felt the pain in that room, and I felt the sincere desire of the people in that circle to meet that pain in a good way and to move forward with respect and dignity for all human beings. And so I'm curious, from each of your perspectives, what is the role of truth and reconciliation in the collective healing of America?
Thank you, Benjamin, and that circle will forever be in my mind. When Karla was speaking, she said all lives matter. In America, we are stuck on stupid. Listen to me, stuck on stupid. Why? Because we solve problems by creating more problems. So now that all Black Lives Matter, Asians are being killed. Since George Floyd was killed, over 1,000 people have been killed, folks. A new kind of activism is required. It starts with us embodying within ourselves forgiveness. I don't want to be seen as a victim. Yes, I have trauma. My father watched the lynching of his uncle when he was 9 years old, and I grew up with the ghost of my uncle. So I know the pain. But what I can tell you is we can tell a new story. Not that we ignore the past, but we can create a new story together. Everyone has been oppressed. If you've been oppressed, chances are you've oppressed somebody else. If you've been a victim, chances are you've been victimizer also. There is no gene for oppressing people, and there's no gene for intelligence. So we must stand in the space of recognizing and acknowledge it starts with me. Am I free from indoctrination, from people pulling my strings, telling me what is right and wrong? Am I free to live my truth? Each and every one of us is important. There will never be another Dr. King. There will never be another Jesus. Christ is coming again. Is here through all of us.
He without sin cast the first stone. Right? In all of us and through all of our lineages and our ancestors, we played both parts. We've done wrong. We've been wronged. It's about compassion. It's about forgiveness. It's about allowing each and every one of us to go through our process of healing, our process of empowering, of stepping into our best and higher selves so that we may live in service, so that we can better the world by being the agents of change, knowing that we only have the power to change ourselves, but through that change we have the ability to lead by example. Each one, teach one.
Yes, yes. Do you want us to get up and continue? Okay. You know, this is a powerful question, Benjamin. There you are. There are times when we do have to just open up and be 100 with each other, right? I'm from Philly. Brock, you've heard me talk about that a lot. Keep it real. We have to keep it real. And so there is a need for us to face a time where we can admit that there's still trauma happening. I started something called the Urban League, which is one of the largest civil rights organizations nationally across the country, and I started the first one in the state of Delaware. Thank you. And one of those things that I realized in working with the time Senator Biden and leaders, CEOs from First USA and BNA America, a lot of your large corporations, as you all know, are located there. So we had a lot of money to work with. And it was clear that before we could just go ahead and throw down investments in starting up an organization like that, we had reconciliation that needed to happen. And so we did that. We set up circles where we could have conversations that were hard and sticky and not comfortable. So we leaned into it. And it helped us tremendously. We were able to then create allies because we got over the hurt. It's not perfect in Delaware now, but we at least leaned in. Yes. We leaned in and we said, yes, we're going to go through this super uncomfortable door, but we're going to get to the other side. And guess what? You can't keep walking in victimhood. Right. You can't. It's not good for anybody, period. So we have to have a moment of real conversation on both sides, period. And then when you do, we get through that moment. Then we're going to land. We're going to land in a place that's a place we haven't been in a long time. And it's going to be good.
All right.
I'm optimistic about the United States in this area. I think that Germany, after World War II, did a very good job of coming to terms with the evil they had done. And this is necessary for progress. Now in Turkey, they've been resisting facing up to their twice treatment of the Armenians, and for the longest time the United States would not push that along. But I admire President Biden. He said Turkey committed genocide, and you know what? It was okay. The foreign policy experts, they might have thought, oh, don't say that. Well, it turned out okay. And when they take down these monuments to Confederate leaders, we had to do that. And boy, we have made more progress in that in the last couple of years than ever before. So I feel good about that.
All right, I think that's pretty much a wrap for this independent candidates panel. The beginning of something greater coming. Huge. Well, we might have one more question for a specific candidate, maybe, or all, or maybe one or two could answer. Who wants to, resonates? Come on over.
So I loved what Christopher said, but I have a problem with that. If I was ejecting out of a fighter jet, I have 1.6 seconds to calculate the ejection before I die. And so when I kept thinking about all that he said, I loved it. But I don't have 20 years to live. So I'm going to ask each one of you, how can we get rid of what he said? Because each one of those problems connects with the other one.
Thank you. First of all, I love Christopher Life, and I so respect him. And I just want to say, Christopher, I see your evolution. I see your power. I see your strength from even 6 months ago. But we don't have 20 years. We don't have 10 years, folks. We don't have 10 years. And it's not going to take 10 years. If each of us can learn how powerful we are and not let anyone tell us that we're not powerful. But the other thing we have to do, the thing that I learned campaigning twice, is to listen to people I disagree with. You know, I've been a registered Republican, a registered Democrat, registered independent. I've been to Tea Party meetings. And let me tell you, folks, that I'm on everybody's mailing list. I've been with some of the most highest profile liberals and progressives in America. And behind closed doors, you wouldn't think that they were liberals and progressives. What people say behind closed doors and how we are when you think everybody's the same is very different from what the media puts out there. And so when I say who's not included in United We Stand, Christine, this movement has started today, but it has to reach out. It has to reach out to everyone, to each and every American. There is no one that can be excluded. But what I can tell you, Christopher has a fine mind, and his methodology is something we need to pay attention to. It is worthy, it is of value. But Christopher, what I would like to say to you is a lot of what you described, my mama and daddy did it years and years ago. What you're describing, my mama and daddy with no education. My mother ran buses to the poll. At her funeral, there was all the politicians, governors, everybody. They said, when Mother Addison calls, you had better do what she tells you to do, or else you're going to pay for it on election day. You know, so black folks have a lot of power. White folks have power, but we have to bring that together, all of us together, deciding to be powerful. Nobody a victim, nobody higher than anyone else. And watch, be careful what we value. We value money so much more than so many other things. We fall right into the same trap. Everybody has something of value to offer. So yes, I support Christopher Life. I also give him a really hard time. Yes.
Well, we're living through hard times.
Yes, we are.
So, like, embrace it. But now is the time.
Yes, now is the time.
Now is the time to act,
Yes, yes.
to activate,
Yes, yes.
to reach out to our brothers and sisters, to bring everyone together.
Yes.
Because now is the time.
Now is the
It ain't 20 years from now. It's right now. It's these next years.
Yes, yes.
It's between now and 2024.
Yes, yes,
We've got this election cycle in 2021, November 2nd.
yes.
We got midterm elections next year.
Yes.
And then we've got the big one in 2024. So it's time to assemble, time to remind us of what we already know. You already know. Find your brothers and sisters. Each one teach one. Bring us back to unity. Divided we fall, united we stand, and we will stand tall on the shoulders of giants through our ancestors, knowing that our odds of being alive in a physical vessel are probably 1 in 600 billion. And thank you, God, thank you, ancestors, through this incredible lineage of time that we've persevered to be here in this present moment,
Yes, yes.
to represent with all that we are and all that we can. Because yes, we can. We can build a new earth. We can build a better world. Only together.
Yes, we will.
Yes, we will.
We
We already have. It's already done. Just enjoy the show and ride. And make sure everyone gets to have fun, because it's going to be a good time.
Yes, it is. Woo-hoo, woo-hoo. Wow,
Mike has been dropped. Mike, I'll say this. Christopher Sawabono, I see you. And just to clarify, Christopher is starting now, so that you know. Viva! He's already. Yeah, it is now. Thank you, Christina.
I just want to say that if you have friends or relatives or neighbors who totally disagree with you about politics, and you've given up thinking you can have a dialogue, try again, because we really need that.
All right. How are we on time? Yes, I would say, yeah, we're good. So it's tough to turn.
We're all still here.
Well, you know what? Come on, let's do it. We're going to go later tonight, everybody. It gets nice and cool soon. This is Richard Gage. Can I introduce who you are? He is the founder of Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth. This is the guy right here. We go back a decade, and I've had him on this stage even during the times when, it was like, well, I love you and what you stand for, and your wife, Gail, and here you go.
Thank you, love. This was supposed to be an anonymous question. I was going to hide behind here, but which of you are willing to expose the satanic roots of the deep state?
It's interesting. During this journey, Brock and I had an opportunity to really clearly see that it exists. And there was no denial of it. I was an appointee to the FCC, the Federal Communication Commission. I've been in and out working with Secretary Summers when he was at Treasury, with Secretary Carson, and I never wanted to be in alignment with conspiracy theories. That was disgusting to me on so many levels. Until I started to get woke in my own way. Coming from a military family, coming from a family that's so tied to law enforcement on all levels. That was tough for me to listen to or to hear the potential truth of that. I don't necessarily call it a deep state. I think it's just talking about transparency and accountability. This is something, too, that Brock, you and I've talked about with blockchain and how that can help in so many different ways, right? And so I think what we need to do is lean more into the systems and the technologies that help us to create a system that becomes really transparent. And then you start to see the cockroaches come out. So that would be my acknowledgement to your question. Once you set up a platform that reveals the truth, it doesn't go much deeper than that.
Yeah, I'll just add one other comment to add to that point. Darkness is a teacher.
Yes. Yes.
It's a teacher that if you don't listen and learn, will be a tough teacher. And through technology, through tools of transparency, we can bring darkness into the light.
Absolutely.
And again, it's back to compassion and forgiveness and understanding that this is part of our collective story, our collective journey, our collective healing as one collective consciousness. And so we have compassion, and again, we live our best lives. We live our truth.
Thank you, Brock and Carlin. I was watching live stream yesterday when I was hearing about the other building. Folks, I'm 68 years old and black in America, so the deep state ain't nothing new to me. There's nothing that America could do to shock me. I mean, I'm just telling you like it is. I'm 68 years old and lived in America all my life, except for the short time I was in Africa. But as Brock said, beloved, please listen to me. We can never do this work from the level of consciousness of us versus them. We're going to keep staying stuck on stupid, going around the same corner, bumping into the same enemy. We have to rise above the us versus them, the good. I mean, somebody quoted Rumi over the weekend. Rumi said, there is a place beyond any notion of right and wrong. Come dance with me there.
Amen, they all.
All right. It is a wrap. So thank our independent candidates here on this panel.